that's just what the rules for the class. Last year the same class allowed a bigger tire and a different tire, and they actually had two classes, and the slower one had a radial on it and the faster one had a different tire. And kind of with the economy, car counts have been low, so they combined the two and tried to take half and half so both participants could, equally participate in the race. Yeah, it's a 67 Camaro. It's still on stock suspension. It still has the back seat in it. Pretty much still almost could be street legal. Pretty much the way the engine's designed, it would overheat before you could really drive too far on the street. Well, we do control systems for all the large petrochemical plants in the Houston area, Lyondell, BP, Exxon, stuff like that. Work for a small company that really specializes in just control systems. And a lot of their big projects they do, we come in and just really do the control systems part of it. And they may use some of the bigger contractors like KBR and that, come do all the mechanical piping and a lot of the electrical stuff. And we come in and really just specialize on the control systems part of it. Well, just kind of decided I wanted to start drag racing, so I bought a race car, and it kind of evolved where we just had a bunch of switches and relays and stuff in the car, and I was rewiring it, one winter, and just started thinking, why don't I start using more of what we're using at work? And really just to simplify the wiring was the first step, and so I put a PLC unit in it where instead of having to do the logic really within the wiring and relays, I could just do it more, just connect all the wires to the PLC and do all the logic inside of that. It really just simplified the wiring and just made it all a little simple package. And when I first did it, I pretty much just used switches for all my inputs and still had all my gauges in the car and still just pretty much operated the same. It's just where we would do the logic with relays and wiring, the logic was just in the PLC. Really just got where we had so many gauges and so many switches in the car, it was just hard to keep up with, to keep an eye on everything. We had gauges in the console, in the dash, in the console. We had them actually in the glove box where I left the glove box open where I could look over there. We had switches underneath the dash, on the console, and even had some overhead. So really, you were having to look at everything. And the thing I really wanted to do the next step was just to simplify and put everything in a small area where you don't have to look as many places, and kind of automate some of the stuff where you could have indications if things are going wrong. And so that's when I ended up selecting the Maple Systems touchscreen and InduSoft software to be able to do that and really just put all the gauges and switches and everything right there on the screen, so I only have this much area that I have to look at. I don't have to look all over the car. I don't have to remember stuff. It's just I can look over there and everything's just in a 7-inch area. The biggest thing is just eliminating the driver making mistakes. It has a few things that kind of make the car maybe a little faster, but the main thing is if you don't make a mistake, if the driver doesn't make a mistake, then the car can do its thing. Probably the biggest margin for error is the driver. And if you forget to turn the fuel pump on, then the car will start up and drive up there, but it won't go very far after that. So that's one of the things that we make. I have a light on there that shows me the fuel pump's not on, and if I don't have fuel pressure, then I get a red light showing that there's no fuel pressure. We actually have a couple different fuel pressures for the nitrous systems. Basically, another thing we do too is I've got a race ready light that I programmed everything that has to be on and should be on in that certain state. And if everything's like that, then the light's green. So most of the time I just really look at the light. If it's green, then I don't really look at any of the other setting of the indications on the screen. I think most drag racers are computer illiterate, so there's not a lot of them that do this. There's some of the teams on the East Coast that have a lot of money. They pay some different people to do stuff like that, but pretty much in my league, it's more that they're more into turning wrenches than than working on the computers. It's slowly changing, but you know, since I do this every day, I kind of have the skills to do it. I guess the main thing that I really have on my mind is we still have to connect the laptop up to download the data. And I've already started some of the work, but using the InduSoft scripting, where I can have the InduSoft software go out and grab all the data from the PLC and format it for my graphing software, where I can put it on a USB and then just pull the USB thumb drive out and then put it in the computer. That's really my next biggest planned step. Most of them they're not planned. It's just me and my racing team get together and talk, and then we come up with ideas and we just try it. It's usually there's not very much planning ahead of time, and it's like, hey, what about this? And so we just kind of learn things. So really there's not much planned work to it. Yeah, the main thing was the scripting, because we do a lot of the control system stuff we do is we have a lot of scripting and programming abilities where we have the flexibility to do whatever we want. And that was one of the things that the scripting abilities and having the VB script and also the built-in script, looking at that had all the functions that I knew that I could do whatever I needed to do when the time came. That was really the biggest selling point. While I was looking, I just came across it. A lot of the stuff that we use for a lot of our clients, they specify which software we use, so we don't get to do a lot of research. They just say, hey, we have this software and this hardware, and we need you to do this with it. So when I really started looking, I had to look for something of my own, and plus InduSoft's software was a lot more affordable than some of the other ones that we use every day. That was one thing, is I just couldn't spend a whole lot of money on something from a race car, because we spend most of the money on going fast and some of the other money on everything else. And it was just a good package and everything. Had the scripting, had all the features of all the other software, and was priced really well. No, I've pretty much been able to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. Very robust, flexible. Inch RPMs and drive shaft RPMs, and really the G meter is the main thing that I'm looking at.